Texan. See you on the ground.
Lola, it was anything but. Thank you so much. A fantastic display, a fantastic presentation of an amazing show, and it really will take something special to beat that at the World Championships. The extra EA330FC of the French Air and Space Force.
So it's extremely technical. And in the freestyle discipline, the thing that is super exciting is that they create their own display. So every pilot have a different display and it's unique. The music is chosen by the pilot to make you feel the more emotion you can. Here with you this weekend. As we were telling you earlier, it's a symbolic weekend for France and for Great Britain. It's the 120 years anniversary of the Great Entente. It's the 80 years birthday of the D-Day, and we are so happy to celebrate with you. It's also the 90 years of the creation of the French Air Force, and we are really proud to represent all of the aviators.
For operation, I should say, on the water, and which we should see demonstrated in this display.
And going around, gear up. From the left. The Chinook can carry a wide range of vehicles internally, including armoured fighting vehicles, motorcycles and quad bikes with trailers. Having been tied down securely throughout the flight, the team will now unstrap the quad bike to demonstrate how quickly it can be offloaded from the aircraft to offer support to the troops already on the ground. Quad bikes are often used in conjunction with trailers to transport ammunition resupplies and other mission critical equipment around the battlefield at pace. With the cargo safely dispatched, the aircraft will conduct a high-performance departure. By using all the available power offered up by the two impressive 5,000 horsepower Honeywell engines, the aircraft can quickly depart the area whilst minimising the risks presented by different threats on the ground. As the aircraft repositions, we'd like to express our gratitude to Major Ali Hughes and his team from JHSS for supporting today's roll demonstration. The team have worked hard to deliver an impressive display of their capabilities. The Chinook can carry a wide range of vehicles internally, including armoured fighting vehicles, motorcycles and quad bikes with trailers. Having been tied down securely throughout the flight, the team will now unstrap the quad bike to demonstrate how quickly it can be offloaded from the aircraft to offer support to the troops already on the ground. Quad bikes are often used in conjunction with trailers to transport ammunition resupplies and other mission-critical equipment around the battlefield at pace. With the cargo safely dispatched, the aircraft will conduct a high-performance departure. By using all the available power offered up by the two impressive 5,000 horsepower Honeywell engines, the aircraft can quickly depart the area whilst minimising the risks presented by different threats on the ground. As the aircraft repositions, we'd like to express our gratitude to Major Ali Hughes and his team from JHSS for supporting today's roll demonstration. The team have worked hard to deliver an impressive display of their capabilities. 2003, where he served as a crewman on the Lynx Mark 7 with the Army. He eventually saw sense in 2019 and came over to the Chinook Force on a 4-year exchange. Fortunately, and much to our delight, that exchange became a permanent transfer. He's our lead crew serve weapons instructor and has accumulated over 2,000 flying hours. You'll notice that Coops is handling the corner smoothly today.
A glorious sight indeed, the two aircraft now heading south, heading back towards RF Brize Norton, their home base. In RF service, this is a tactical and strategic aircraft operated by 2 pilots and 1 weapons systems operator. Has the ability to carry 25 tons of payload, a range of 2,000 nautical miles, and it can operate from fairly rough and unprepared strips, in addition to beaches, where I've certainly witnessed myself.
At that stage, Lee Jones, who'd been leader of the Yellow Jacks, was still the team leader. It was a 7-ship formation. That June, the newly formed Red Arrows were part of an RAF presentation at the Paris Air Show at Le Bourget, alongside the new, or relatively new, English Electric Lightning fighters of Treble 1 Squadron. Their display, perhaps incongruously, was accompanied by a playing of Roll Out the Barrel. The legend of the Red Arrows on the Nat was largely secured by the leadership of their second team leader, Squadron Leader Ray Hanna, from 1966 to 69, a man who went on to set the standard for formation team leading. Helping plug the Atlantic gap that Andy was describing, and sinking 11 U-boats, which again is something that I think tends to get ignored in the history of the B-17. Bomber Command used B-17Gs like this one for radio countermeasures and other special duties.
And eyes to the skies, ladies and gentlemen, because here they go. Smoke is activated, the ramp is open. They're pumping fists, they are ready to go. Presenting to you in 30 seconds, the 2024 Royal Air Force Falcons Parachute Display Team. And there they go, the parachutists coming down now out of the sky, trailing their red smoke. What we're looking for today is 9 canopies. And one of those canopies of one parachutist will be slightly displaced as our flag bearer. So we're expecting that, but look for the formation as they immediately get together. And we have 9 good canopies. So immediately into the snake formation. One parachute to the left now. One more time, please, needed. So as they come into land then, please give a huge round of applause for leading the team, Flight Sergeant Liam Lyons, Sergeant Sean McKay, Sergeant Andy Lynch, Sergeant Mike Atkinson, Sergeant Gabe Coleman Moffat, Sergeant Greg Ashleby, Sergeant Owen Collins, Sergeant Marcus Shields, and 50 years ago, with the first flight on the 21st of August 1974, that was by pilot Duncan Simpson at Dunsfold, and I think it's fair to
Final pass then, coming up for the hunting Jet Provost T3A of the Newcastle Jet Provost Group. Looking very smart in the solo display JP markings that he used to wear in service. VE Day. That U-boat U-320 was on its first operational patrol and it ended up being abandoned on VE Day itself. Rather bad luck for the crew, but they did all survive. And there are the wingtip floats down. Versions have a wheeled undercarriage. You remember that most Army Lynx, not all, the Mark 9 later had a wheeled undercarriage, but most Army Lynx had a skid landing gear, and the naval ones had a wheeled undercarriage for shipborne operations. The decision was taken with the new Wildcat, when it was developed, to give them all wheeled landing gear. So important when you're pushing these aircraft around on very small helicopter landing pads on the sterns of frigates and destroyers. Here you see a kind of spiral loop. Originally conceived, because this was a design that was developed in the run-up to World War II, when the US Navy recognised it had a need for a new patrol bomber to counter potential Japanese threats in the Pacific. This was initially a pure flying boat. It hasn't always been an amphibian, this design, but we see it here in amphibious guise, getting airborne the consolidated PBYA Catalina.
Trailing our red, white and blue. So make sure you give them a huge round of applause, a massive cheer and wave as they arrive. Now transmit that warm welcome to the team on arrival. Cosford, please put your hands together for the 2024 Royal Air Force Aerobatic Team. It's the Red Arrows! The team arrive in our famous Diamond 9, trailing our world famous red, white and blue.
Red 1 starts to pull up and he changes the team to the colour change as Red 1 brings the team down the line.
A little bit left. No.
You may be able to see on the back of the aircraft, it's a small door just underneath the aircraft. That is the air brake. Rolls. Of our 60th anniversary. This is the anniversary break. And coming in from the top right hand side is Red 8, spearing the heart. Red 8 is Flight Lieutenant Richard Walker. Rich is in his second year on the team. He's a former Harrier pilot and also a former Typhoon pilot and qualified flying instructor on the Hawk T-Mark II. Keep your eye on the synchro pair with Red 6 and 7 now coming back towards the display line. At 11 on exchange with the Royal Australian Air Force. As we heard, 2024 celebrates the 80th anniversary of Overlord, which was the storming of the Normandy beaches in D-Day. As the team now come up for the Spitfire roll. And also the team would like to dedicate the Spitfire roll to our friend and colleague, Squad Leader Mark Long, who tragically lost his life 2 weeks ago in the Spitfire crash. It was the 30th anniversary of the final flight of one of the most iconic aircraft in aviation history. As the team roll out, there is no mistaking the wonderful shape of the iconic and majestic. This is Concorde. On the left-hand side of that sensor stem is Red 3. That's Flight Lieutenant Dustin Wales, known as Dusty. Dusty, originally from Zimbabwe. He's a former Typhoon pilot. He flew with 11 Squadron. He was then an instructor on 29 Squadron. In the middle of that right wing is Red 4. That's Flight Lieutenant Ollie Suckling. Ollie is in his second year on the team. He was Red 4 last year. He remained as Red 4 and took up the role effectively. In the middle of that right wing is Red 4. That's Flight Lieutenant Ollie Suckling. Ollie is in his second year on the team. He was Red 4 last year. He remained as Red 4 and took up the role effectively. Pleasure. Please put your hands together for the 2024 Royal Air Force Aerobatic Team. It's the Red Arrow!
.47s and 787 Dreamliners for Virgin Atlantic. So a very tight formation there, but watch now as the
aircraft each split away. Incredibly small. This is billed as a 5-seater aircraft. We do have a 5th one here at Cosford on the ground for you to have a look at. That's a
formation team of Gazelles. He was an instructor on the Gazelle and the Sea King, and he has a lot of post-service experience in the police and emergency medical helicopter worlds, and this is his first season, as I say, on the team. Gazelle 3 is flown by Bruce Stewart. He's been flying helicopters since the 1970s. With the Army Air Corps, he flew the Scout, the Lynx and the Gazelle. He flew in the Blue Eagles team for several seasons, and he now counts among the most experienced Gazelle pilots in the formation team of Gazelles. He was an instructor on the Gazelle and the Sea King, and he has a lot of post-service experience in the police and emergency medical helicopter worlds, and this is his first season, as I say, on the team. Gazelle 3 is flown by Bruce Stewart. He's been flying helicopters since the 1970s. With the Army Air Corps, he flew the Scout, the Lynx and the Gazelle. He flew in the Blue Eagles team for several seasons, and he now counts among the most experienced Gazelle pilots in the UK for daytime reconnaissance runs on low-level navigation routes that will be flown later the same evening by the Chinooks to save Chinook airframe hours and, of course, the sort of cost that would be involved in doing that. It was painted for many years in an all-green colour scheme for daytime reconnaissance runs on low-level navigation routes that would be flown later the same evening by the Chinooks to save Chinook airframe hours and, of course, the sort of cost that would be involved in doing that. It was painted for many years in an all-green colour scheme for daytime reconnaissance runs on low-level navigation routes that would be flown later the same evening by the Chinooks to save Chinook airframe hours and, of course, the sort of cost that would be involved in doing that. It was painted for many years in an all-green colour scheme. The Army Air Corps, including operations during the 1991 Gulf conflict and later in the former Yugoslavia and all the peacekeeping efforts that were mounted there through the 1990s. He left the services but continued to fly the Gazelle as a military reservist. He now flies the Airbus A350 for Virgin Atlantic. Number 2 is Merrick Forsyth, who's new to the team this year. He started out in the Fleet Air Arm of the Royal Navy. He had to be returned to its manufacturer Hawker for repairs. Later on it served again with the RAF before being dispatched to the Soviet Union to continue its operational career, running in the Hawker Hurricane 1. And Ben and Andy were talking about the Hawks that did the flypast earlier being based at RAF Valley. The Reds were actually at RAF Valley on Friday night because they based there to actually go across to the Isle of Man TT motorbike race meeting for a full display actually over the meeting, and they did that on Friday evening, and that gives you a good idea of just how busy they are. This is a typically busy summer weekend for the RAF Red Arrows. They were also flying yesterday, so flew back from Valley down to Bournemouth yesterday for another display at Southsea near Portsmouth, back up to Shawbury to be here for this weekend. This is a very important day for them, of course. The RAF's only air show of the year with the RAF Red Arrows. Give them a wave as they leave in their Juno helicopters heading back to RAF Shawbury. Red 10, who's the safety supervisor and commentator of the Red Arrows, is no stranger to the Juno helicopter, often used to fly him into locations ahead of the team, ready for him to do his commentaries, and that'll be exactly what will happen this afternoon. So you'll see a Juno come back with Red 10 a little bit later on.
was thinking that. That'd be nice. Horrible improvement. Yeah, IT card. Sorry? Yeah, IT card when he's doing the caliber. The lighting's all wrong, Royce. I thought these would have displayed before the Flying Fortress. This is before
The turbojet provides the power plant, one of the most successful British jet engine designs of all time. The Mark III also introduced ejector seats, strengthened wings and the wingtip mounted fuel tanks you can see on this one to give it slightly longer range, and it came into service with number 2 flying training school at Silverstone in 1959, and the first all-jet training course on the Mark III graduated the following year. This is a T3A. The avionics were upgraded on this compared with the standard Mark III, and these started to be used for the training of direct entry pilots. Which means a direct entrant from school, doesn't it?
Indeed it does, yes indeed. Now you mentioned the engine, the Viper. Of course that engine had an interest.
RAF had was right.
Jet progress was unheard of at the time, and then of course the idea of the side-by-side seating as well. Yeah, very new, a huge step forward at the time.
Because of course the other thing that could happen other than the aircraft biting you if you got it wrong was that you got a clip round the ear from the instructor who was sitting next to you rather than behind.
Nowhere to hide. Disposable. I saw in some tech journal that it was lifed at just 10 hours initially because it was built for the G-EWIZ, the target that was meant to be shot down, so it didn't need to have much life, and the engine did take quite a bit of reworking.
To 5G, and he aims to pitch the aircraft around an imaginary circle in the sky. Even when inverted, the centrifugal forces keep him pressed into his seat. Today the Royal Air Force is recruiting for multiple rewarding and demanding professions and
An underslung load requires a robust and effective communication process between all crew members, as pilots are unable to see what's going on underneath the aircraft. This is chief by the crewman in the rear cabin, painting a mental picture for the pilots over the intercom, using voice marshalling to direct the aircraft to a precise drop-off point and ensuring the aircraft lands safely clear of the load.
Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Flight Lieutenant Edwards.
Good afternoon, Cosford. My name is Flight Lieutenant Gwed Edwards. I'm one of the Chinook pilots currently serving on 18 Squadron. This year we wanted to bring you something a little different to what you may have seen previously, and as such we'll be showcasing the aircraft's operational abilities in an all-new 2024 roll demonstration. The Chinook fulfills many operational roles, including trooping, carriage of freight, parachute operations, VIP and passenger flights, casualty evacuation, humanitarian assistance and military aid to civil authorities. This year's roll demonstration is brought to you jointly by 18 Squadron, the premier frontline operational Chinook Squadron, and the Joint Helicopter Support Squadron, known as JHSS. Now it's time to prepare yourselves for one of the highlights of today's flying displays. Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, please turn your eyes to the sky for the 2024 Chinook roll demonstration. From the left.
Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Flight Lieutenant Edwards.
Good afternoon, Cosford. My name is Flight Lieutenant Gwed Edwards. I'm one of the Chinook pilots currently serving on 18 Squadron. This year we wanted to bring you something a little different to what you may have seen previously, and as such we'll be showcasing the aircraft's operational abilities in an all-new 2024 roll demonstration. The Chinook fulfills many operational roles, including trooping, carriage of freight, parachute operations, VIP and passenger flights, casualty evacuation, humanitarian assistance and military aid to civil authorities. This year's roll demonstration is brought to you jointly by 18 Squadron, the premier frontline operational Chinook Squadron, and the Joint Helicopter Support Squadron, known as JHSS. Now it's time to prepare yourselves for one of the highlights of today's flying displays. Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, please turn your eyes to the sky for the 2024 Chinook roll demonstration.
Helping plug the Atlantic gap that Andy was describing and sinking 11 U-boats, which again is something that I think tends to get ignored in the history of the B-17. Bomber Command used B-17Gs like this one for radio countermeasures and other special duties. A lovely display indeed by the Hurricane 1, that Battle of Britain veteran. An aircraft owned by Jennifer Taylor and flown for us by former RAF pilot and former Airbus test pilot and current Shuttleworth collection pilot Frank Chapman. class patrol craft. Because if you want to fly a Hurricane, a Spitfire, a Mustang on the modern day warbird scene, you've basically got to train on one of these. And people have joked that, for example, in relation to the Hurricane that we saw earlier in the programme, that once you've done 50 hours in a Hurricane, you're ready to fly a Harvard. That's the challenge this aircraft represented. Had to be flown accurately, had to be flown well.
Because, of course, at the time there were no dual control reducing Spitfires or Hurricanes. They came after the war.
Yeah, there was one two-seat Hurricane, and in fact there were a few sort of field conversions of Hurricanes during the war, but not as trainers, really.
No dual control, it's just a hack, a bit,
exactly,
somewhere to put a body.
Yes, yes. Now we're inundated with Spitfires, but not used for the sort of initial training, obviously.